All right, guys. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the experience of making my first $100,000 with my agency at 17 years old. And this, some of you guys who have watched my channel for the past 2.5 years now, you guys have seen it all happen and unfold live as I documented the entire thing. But I think making your first $100,000 is probably one of the biggest benchmarks inside just your business and life career. And I think it's maybe cool to hear someone's experience like mine on how I did it and kind of maybe some of the struggles I faced and things I did wrong that I wish I did differently. So, for context, for those that don't know, I started my agency at 16 years old publicly on this YouTube channel. I worked with real estate agents. Okay, so I was doing advertising for real estate agents. I bought a course from a guy some of you guys know, Iman Godzi, and I followed his course. It was okay, got me to just into the space, to be honest. Everything else beyond that was just me doing a bunch of research onto YouTube on how do I book sales calls, because if I don't have sales calls of people to sell on my service, I'm not going to make any money. So the first 6 months, I would say, I won't even say I know, the first 6 months of my business was me just trying to book sales appointments. And guess how many appointments I booked out of those 6 months? Zero. I didn't book one appointment. And that was hard for me, but I just knew those 6 months would have been the most important months if I stuck with it, because most people won't go 6 months, right? And I stuck with it. And again, this was publicly documented too. I use kind of the YouTube channel as like a public documentation accountability thing. And eventually I started doing a bunch of cold emails. Okay. And I found methods to just, book sales appointments through scraping leads lists using cold email. And I had like 10, 15 different emails at the time that I was sending emails off of in a platform called instantly.ai, I think it is. And that's how I started booking sales appointments on like an offer and like a script I refined time and time and time again using ChatGPT when it was nowhere near as good as today. And I started getting appointments on my calendar, and the first appointment I jumped on, okay, I got so scared of pitching a price, I just said, it's free. And the person said yes, but what happened was they didn't actually go through with it. They were like they just said yes, and we jumped off the call. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know I was supposed to schedule an onboarding call. I didn't have direction, so I was kind of just like, we'll follow up over email, right? I'm super happy to have you as my first client. And that never ended up happening. So I had a second call. Okay, this is like, again, 6th or 7th month into my agency, and it was my second call ever through email. And what happened was I jumped on the call and I just pitched a price. It was someone local to me, a real estate agent who I didn't know at all, but just saw I just found that was local. And I think I said it was $250 or something like that. And they said yes. They were like, I'll do it. They paid on spot. And when I got that Stripe notification, that was the best feeling I think I've ever had in my business journey ever. Okay. I've made a lot of money, I would say, since then, at a very young age, and nothing beats that feeling. So what happened after that was I knew it was possible. Okay. And I started to fulfill for them. It was like very, very, like it was $250 for like 3-week trials. Like that's what I was doing. Like I didn't have the confidence to jump on calls and pitch these big price points. And like, again, I was like 16 years old. I was pretty overweight. I was a lot of things not going in my favor, like it was very obvious and apparent if you go back on my channel. So what I did from there is I said, this is possible. I know I can do it. I just need to do more of this. So I kept just doing this over and over and over again, like more people, more clients, $300 client, $400 client. And I ended up getting to $500 clients that, again, they'd pay me $500 for just a 3-week service. So I stacked experience with going through like the trials and tribulations of just getting these first few clients. And then eventually I think I made like a couple $1,000s at this point. And I had a friend, I was in a community. Some of you guys know this guy. He's like like agency, SMMA kind of OG. His name's Joel Kaplan. He has like 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. I don't think he posts anymore, but I was in what's called Agency Lab. Like it was one of his big groups. And I was just networking with a bunch of people in there, kind of just talking with them a little bit, just in like, it was a Facebook group. So I was just meeting people I could on calls and stuff. And someone I got pretty close with said, hey, I'm running ads for my agency and I'm booking like 5 appointments a day. And keep in mind at this point, like I maybe have made a few grand, like 2 or 3, but that was like, again, 3-week trials. This guy told me he was booking like 5, 6 appointments a day, and he was closing like big retainer clients, like $1,000 plus a month clients. I was like, I can do that too. How do I do it? And he kind of showed me like the back ends of just, hey, just, what you're doing for your clients, do for yourself. And I never thought of this at the time. And it was something that people don't shine light on YouTube, like running ads for your own agency. Like if you have the money, I recommend it. Okay. Like I know everyone says go do outreach, go do these things, but like if you have money, just skip the time. All right. Like you're better off working a job and running ads compared to sitting at your desk all day trying to motivate yourself to send 9 hours worth of emails a day to barely get a call. Right. So I started running ads, and I think I started running ads at like, I don't know how much I was spending a day. It was like $40 to $60 a day, maybe in that range. And I started booking appointments. And I was running an offer at the time for real estate agents. This is all real estate agents at the time. I was running ads at the time that no one has seen in the market. I was one of the first people to do ads like this. And anyone that knows me that went through my journey at this time, where again, I was 17, knows I crushed it out of the water with just having a super good appealing ad. So what I did is something that I've been pretty big talking about publicly on YouTube recently, and something that guys in my mastermind are doing a lot, is running what's called a pay-per-result model. So this is back 2 or 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, when no one was doing this, and barely anyone, I mean, people were running ads, but like no one with this offer. I was saying on ads like pay per result, real estate agents, only pay on a result. And I'd get so many calls. Like I was getting at one point, I want to say $6 cost per call. Okay. And I was getting so many calls that my calendar simply couldn't like literally handle it at all. And keep in mind, my no-show rate was very high. I was having like 8 calls a day with maybe 4 showing up, 3 showing up, and a bunch of unqualified people because I didn't know what I was doing. But I had one call, and the first call I got from ads, okay, for running ads for my agency, I closed her. I remember this super, super vividly. I pitched $1,200 a month, and I got the payment for it, okay? And you guys can look back on me documenting every single month to verify this. This is all public. Like I've shared all this publicly. I think it was 1,200. If not, it was like 1,000. But it was 1,000 a month, 1,200 a month for 3 months. And this was me after having like 5 or 6 free trial clients at the time, I want to say. Again, after making a couple, few grand off that. And like what was so cool about that is I jumped out of my chair and I was like, I did it. Like I closed the $1,000+ a month client. This is $3,000 easy. And what happened is like I was getting a lot of calls. I don't remember exactly what was happening with all these calls, but there were like a couple weeks after having that first closed client where I think I shut off ads. Reason why is because I was trying to fulfill for this client. Like I took it very serious. I was like, I want this person to get the best results, etc. Long story short, we ran into some Facebook issues where I couldn't get access to her page. And once I did, it was already restricted or banned by a previous agency she worked with that did a bad job. And I spent so many hours trying to fix this page. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this one client because there was a lot of clients I had to make $100,000. But I spent so much time to fix her page and support everything. And eventually I got a notification on my phone, like 2 weeks later, she disputed. She disputed my payment. It was like the most stressful I've ever felt, I think, within my agency. Like I just worked so hard. I spent so many hours into like just trying to help her and get things up. And she was being super responsive. And I got a dispute through my phone. So I knew from there, I needed to just get more people because volume would negate the luck of the people who, that small majority of people who will dispute and just, be bad clients. So I started closing client after client after client after that. Like I was in a little bit of a drought because I had to push ads back on, but I started closing client after client after client. I went from 2 or 3 grand a month with the outreach stuff to 5 grand a month to 10 grand a month to 15 grand a month, all the way to 20 grand a month. Okay. This is at the time I had like probably 15 real estate agents on like $1,200 a month retainers. Okay. And again, this is what I'm telling you here. I'm not recommending you guys to do this. This was very stressful, very hard to manage. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't increase my price. I didn't do any of this. So many things were wrong at the time because I just didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have help. So I was making 20 grand a month. And that is the time where I was going into my senior year of high school. And I went from a in-person school to kind of like it was like a college that I could take high school classes in. And I could do it almost online, but some of the classes were in person. So this is right where school started up, September. I remember it very vividly I think it was 2023. And this was a very hard point for me I was making, and this is going to sound so bad, but like I was making like 20 grand a month. Profit on that, like probably like 15 grand a month profit. And this is for months at this time, simply by just having all these clients and them just paying me every single month. And like my churn wasn't too low. And I started getting clients in 6-month agreements of them paying me over $1,000 a month. So it was like 6 grand deals, like pretty good stuff. But I was walking to a college classroom, spending like half of my day at like high school essentially, in person, stuck listening to some teacher while I was making 20 grand a month. For those of you guys that know, I didn't even drop out of school until March of this year. Like I was making, very transparently, I was making like over 30 to 50K a month in personal profit before I ended up dropping out of school. Like I really waited a long time because I had a long set vision on like me going to Harvard and all these things that I thought. You can look back, like literally 8 months ago, I was talking about that. And when I was going in person, I started getting really almost depressed. Right in that summer period, right after kind of the September period is when I started making that like $20,000 a month, which was kind of my peak at the time. Like I held that peak for a while, but it slowly started to decrease. Like I went from like 20 grand a month to 17 to 15, and then it was down to like 14 or 13 grand a month. Majority of this being profit because I was a one-man show. So I was slaving for all my clients. I didn't know how to outsource properly. I had a lot, like I was making a lot of money, but I just was super lost. And this is where I felt pretty depressed. And I hate using that word. Anyone that knows me, I don't like ever prescribing myself as depressed or anything, but I started gaining weight again. It was like winter. I live in Washington State, so it's cold. And overall, I just lost motivation, or I lost my discipline. And I started just like literally no showing my own sales calls. Like that was the thing. Like I had like ads up. I tried to hire a closer. Long story short, a bunch of things went wrong. Okay. But the whole moral of the story is I was able to make over 100 grand in profit within my agency at 17 years old, simply by just putting these clients on retainers and just getting like upfront costs. So I went from like $1,000 a month, like I mentioned, for 6 months to eventually charging like, I don't know what it was at the time. It was like, I think 5 grand upfront. So I'd give them an incentive like, hey, if you pay five grand upfront right now, you won't have to pay 6.5 or 7 grand a month over like a 6-month time horizon. And then a bunch of people started opting in for the 5 grand. So I was getting a lot of upfront cash, and I hired a media buyer. I was slowly starting to try to build out my team. I hired a closer. Funny enough, this closer that I hired is actually Alex Ramosey's like sales manager right now, which is nuts. But I didn't know what I was doing. Like I literally was asking this guy like, hey, like, so am I supposed to have like weekly calls with you, or what am I supposed to do? I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even know what commission to give him. Nothing. I had no guidance. Okay. But I was still able to pull it off by just sheer hard work and just like showing up every day type thing. I don't need to give you guys some motivational speech, but really what it was just like brute force, like get 15, 20 clients on retainer, $1,000 a month, 20 grand right there. And then I started pitching to like, 20,000, or what it was at the time was like $5,000 upfront clients that then, 4 of those clients would make me 20 grand up front instead of having to wait 6 months to get that full amount, etc. And that was how I did it, guys. And I know that's like so kind of boring, but like there were a lot of like, it was just ups and downs. And it was, I would say a big word I could give throughout this whole, my first 100 grand. Cause that's kind of everyone's like goal pedestal. They put that on there, like 10K a month, sure, is like the big one, but like making your first $100,000 is like the thing you want, right? 6 figures. And for me, it was just a lot of unknown. That was it for me, because like I mentioned, I didn't have help knowing what to do with certain steps. I was paying mentors here and there, but they weren't the right people. And like, they didn't really help too much. And yeah, it was just a lot of learning, and like, you guys can see this stuff publicly. Like this is all very public. You guys can see I documented month 6, month 7, month 8, month 9, from month 6, making $0 a month to month 12 or 13 or 14, wherever I stopped doing the monthly updates. I was making like over 20 grand a month at the time, or right around there. And that, again, you guys can look back at this stuff, payment notifications, receipts, it's all there. And yeah, that was how I made my first $100,000. A lot of unknown, but overall it was just the brute force that showed up every single day and just trying to get more. And like advice I could give when it comes to getting that first $100,000 is you need to just show up. Okay. Like people have said like there's different problems you're going to have at different phases. Like the problems I have in my business right now, trying to scale to like multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a month is very different than what it was at making $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month. And also understand, people talk revenue all the time. I do it here and there, but like I'm also transparent and open about profits too. Like everyone on the internet you'll see, and this is a big thing I fell victim to when I was actually in those agency lab communities starting my agency. Everyone was running around saying they were making 10, 20, 30 grand a month. But I actually figured out some of these people were actually making $1,000 a month when they said they were making 20. Like they had 5% margins because they wanted to have the sexy stripe screenshot, but they weren't actually running a business that was profitable or that made sense. So the saying, I've mentioned it before, but like really go after profits and optimize your business for that. That's why I'm big on the AI agency model, because it's a very high profit business model compared to the SMMA model I was running at the time. While it still works, while I made it work, while that was the stepping stone to where I'm at today, you don't optimize for the ego revenue goal. It's not going to do anything for you. Super key, important lesson there. But yeah, guys, it was just a bunch of getting clients and having them churn and getting new clients and then getting good results for them and then just rinse and repeat, and just kind of failing every single time I got to the next step and just trying to improve. And eventually, after so many months of making 15, 20 grand a month, almost in profit, I ended up at that $100,000 mark. So, yeah, guys, hopefully this gave some context and like a little bit of what that looks like. I know this wasn't like crazy valuable, but like really, I think that it's just good to have an open perspective into someone who went through it and just to hear firsthand experience, because a lot of people don't talk about that. So guys, that being said, I hope you found this video valuable. And if you want to go see all this stuff for yourself and see what I was thinking every single time and moment of what I talked about in this video, it's all public on YouTube, which is super cool. So go check that out and I'll see you guys inside the next video. Bye-bye.